the just say no era. And so for all of us Gen Xers, like it's been a lot of mindset shift that we were so indoctrinated, into.
Hello and welcome to the Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins podcast. We share people who've already healed themselves, along with health and wellness tips from myself. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins. Today, my guest is Kayse Garrett, who is the founder of Microdosing for Healing, a global movement helping thousands of individuals explore personal growth and emotional well-being through intentional microdosing. With nearly 30 years in the healing arts, Kasey has guided over 1,400 people in over 30 countries and now trains the next generations of practitioners through her professional microdosing facilitator program. Her own journey of overcoming a lifelong seizure disorder through microdosing inspired her mission to make transformation safe, accessible, and empowering. So welcome, Kasey.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So I've touched on in your bio, your background, your journey. Could you just fill us in a bit more about how you got into the healing arts and what drew you into that work?
Thank you. So as a child, I thought I would be a doctor. For the longest time, I prepared for that. And when I was studying pre-med in college, my sophomore year, I got an intuition that said it's time to leave here and move to California, which was at the time across the country. And so I followed that intuition, changed gears, and landed at Esalen Institute in Big Sur, which is where I discovered body work. And I went into somatic practices, healing arts, studied Reiki starting at 19. And then just kind of delved into that world of quote unquote alternative healing. And then over time worked with body work, worked with energy work, eventually opened studios, healing arts studios in Northern California, and then started microdosing to what I thought would be just another exploratory, spiritual practice, modality, supplement. Not really thinking that it would have the profound healing that it did. I grew up avoiding drugs, particularly psychedelics, and experimenting with psychedelics because of my seizure disorder, not wanting to destabilize my already unstable mind, right? And so when I started and I came across the idea of starting with microdosing, which is taking teeny, tiny sub-perceptual amounts of a psychedelic earth medicine, you're not going anywhere, you're not altered, you're not trippy. I didn't really know what to expect, but among other things, it was after a few months, I realized I have not had an aura, I've not had a seizure. And so that was the beginning to what has become my profession today.
So that was quite a profound shift in job, in role.
A little bit, yeah.
From medicine to plants, but plants are medicine. And I love that you found that you had healing through microdosing, just as a by the way, I haven't seen this. So for those people in the audience who might be new to the concept, could you explain what microdosing is? I know you've touched on it, and how that works.
Happy to. Yeah. So microdosing, it's becoming a more popular word and people are applying it to different things. But in the context of that I utilize it, it's taking small sub-perceptual doses of a psychedelic medicine. I particularly work with mushrooms. Mushrooms are kind of my primary medicine I work with, but it's really, there's an array of medicines, plant and earth medicines alike out there that people can work with. And it's lovely because you're working at about 1/10 of the dose of what a psychedelic journey would be. So you're not trippy, you're not altered, you're not becoming, going to a different realm. With microdosing, you're here on the earth plane, working in your real life, integrating in your real life. And so it's a nice, gentle way to touch into this work in a really subtle, gentle way and see what it holds in store for you.
That sounds amazing. And can you elaborate on how it works with specifically with our brain and our nervous system, what it does to that? Because I know you've elaborated on that it doesn't take you on the trip like a full dose would do. But what does it do when we ingest it?
We're just scratching the surface, I think, scientifically, of our understanding of how mushrooms work with us. I mean, mushrooms have been with us for millennia now. They have such intelligence and wisdom. They've been through multiple extinction events. Our current scientific understanding tends to focus a lot on the mind and also with the receptor system. So psilocybin works on the 5-HT2A receptors in the body, which there are many in the mind, but we also have most of them in the gut. And so there is some interplay there. It's the same receptor that regulates our serotonin system. So hence the uplift, hence the supporting people who are experiencing depression or grief. It's very healing for those things because it works with that receptor system. But to be honest, from what I've seen, there's so much of this healing that goes far beyond what we know now. And I think it's going to be very, very exciting going forward as the more we learn about energy medicine, entanglement, the entourage effects of all of these other compounds within the mushroom beyond psilocin are going to be pretty profound in the coming years.
I believe that too, absolutely. And I think more and more people are stepping away from Western medicine into, air quotes, alternative medicines, therapies, treatments. So what kind of safety issues would there be around taking mushrooms or any hallucinogen?
Great question. So mushrooms are very, very safe. Someone did a study that rated and ranked all of the drugs, the known drugs, and mushrooms were among the most safe and the least toxic. They're non-addictive, they're non-habit forming. There's really not a lot of side effects. Most of the side effects have to do with contraindications around pharmaceuticals. So there's some pharmaceuticals that are contraindicated, but really the biggest side effect, or when people ask me, like, is there anybody that mushroom microdosing doesn't work for? It's really the mechanism of the way they work is they bring things forth. They remediate, they bring things up. And so it's very common for people to have amplified, enhanced emotions, which is how we heal. But in our Western society of numbing, controlling, managing symptoms, sometimes we have to have an opening in our mindset that that's actually how we're healing in a lasting way. And so sometimes people are taken aback by how much they feel, how much texture and nuance there is to their human capacity of feeling. And as strange as that sounds, that's the biggest side effect that I've seen.
Yeah, so basically coming back into the real world.
Yes. and our full capacity. It's kind of like a rewilding of ourselves, coming back into our intuition, coming back into our bodies, coming back into our instinct again. All of this happens. And it's just, we've been so kind of domesticated, if you will, by modern culture. It's a big transition to kind of come back into the full humanity and beingness.
Yeah, and I love that. I know there's a lot of myths and misconceptions, around taking drugs, if you like, microdosing. Could you clear some of that up for us?
Sure. I think we have a lot of Gen X kids, on the planet right now that kind of grew up with the stigma, your brain, this is your brain on drugs and the just say no era. And so for all of us Gen Xers, like, it's been a lot of mindset shift that we were so indoctrinated, into. First of all, once you start working with mushrooms, you see, like, calling them drugs doesn't serve them. There's so much more beyond a drug. And so we always try to frame with our participants in practice, Think of your mushroom and your microdose more like a relationship. It's a spirit, it's a being, it's a living presence, it's an elder that's going to be working with you and teaching you and giving you these gifts and these wisdom. So it kind of takes it out of that wheelhouse of you're taking a prescription or a pill. Also, a lot of people have a stigma and fear around being altered, being taken out of their body, being taken out of their experience, taking out of control is a big one for a lot of us. And so that's one big misconception is you not only are still very much in control, you're actually more yourself once you start microdosing than not. Like you are better, you're more grounded, you're more centered, you're more in your body, your reflexes are better, your mind is sharper. And so very quickly, people who were worried about feeling trippy are actually even better, more focused, more clear, more centered.
Such an amazing drug in air quotes, but not really a drug, is it? It's as you've described it, it's a plant medicine. You've used it as a healing tool to heal the seizure disorder. I know you've touched on it. Can you walk us through what that looked like?
Yes. And one of the fundamental and magical things about mushroom medicine is it's really you that's doing the healing. It's your innate healing potential that's doing the healing. Mushrooms are just kind of the key and the ally that come in to turn and unlock that ability within yourself. And so it's beautiful to watch. And in my experience, it was that way. It was even when I had been diagnosed as a child, they looked for the source, right? They wanted to find the tumor or the dysregulation or the epilepsy. I did all the tests, lots and lots of tests, and they could never find a biological reason for the disorder. Nonetheless, they medicated me with heavy pharmaceuticals anyway. And when I decided to go off my prescription drugs, my physicians were not happy with me at all. But what ended up happening was I believe the mushrooms deeply reset my nervous system in a way that nothing else could have touched. That I had done no talk therapy, no other medications could have touched that. And with a new, sturdier, resilient nervous system, my seizures healed as a consequence. So it's such a different way of going about it. And for everybody that I've worked with, a lot of our symptoms that we see are our nervous system regulation or our trauma that's still in the body, sometimes lineage deep, ancestral, is still holding in the body. And so when you work with mushrooms, it tends to kind of creep up on you, right? Where you're like, I healed this thing at the root, and now all this constellation of symptoms is different or gone in many cases. And so it's a really, it just kind of flips the script on so much of our Western ways that we've grown up with. And for me, it was, like I said, I had started and I didn't really have a lot of expectations. There weren't a lot of people around me to talk to about it at the time. And it took a minute to look back and say, wow, I haven't had an aura in months since I started. And I wonder how long I'm going to go. And that's going to continue. And still many years later, today, I still have not had one.
That is truly fabulous. But when you understand how the mushrooms work, you know that it was destined to be so.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And you've touched on innate healing ability, innate wisdom. Could you elaborate on that for the listeners?
Yeah, I think this is something you and I are very, very kindred spirits and aligned on. Is I believe that we all have the ability to heal. We all possess that within ourselves. And it's really, for a lot of us, just finding the thing, the modality, like creating the conditions for our being and our soul to be held in a way to ignite this inner potential that we have. For a lot of people, nature is the thing, because that's the fundamental divide that caused the imbalance in the first place, is this deep, deep disconnection that we've had. And so quite literally, when you're communing with mushrooms, quite literally, you're reconnecting with the healing power of nature and the elements.
Absolutely. So true. So true. And I know you're talking about microdosing as a healing tool for people in general, but what are your thoughts around it helping to heal the collective and maybe culturally too?
I love this question so much. I mean, I think myself and a lot of the guides I work with, this is why we do the work we do. Fundamentally, at the end of the day, this is the vision that's held. Psychedelic medicines and microdosings we call them non-specific amplifiers. So they make and enhance what is even more. And so that's why it's so important to work within a context of healing or growth or potential and transformation, because wherever we direct our own energy, that gets enhanced and amplified too, right? And so the reason we do this work, I believe, is to create a different society that doesn't break people, right? So that we don't have to heal on the back end from things. We're actually proactively changing our culture and society so that we are creating more healed people, and healed people create more healed people.
Yes, yes, they do indeed. And you train practitioners through your program. What qualities do you look for in somebody who wants to guide others in this work?
That's a delicious question. I love it. Thank you. I mean, a lot of people come to the program thinking they need to have a specific background. Do I have to get a license in therapy first, or do I have to have a clinical medical background? No. I've seen it. So it's so beautiful to watch people get called to practice personally. It almost always starts with your own path, which was my case and most guides I work with. You have a really beautiful healing relationship with your own medicine and journey. And then you kind of get summoned, sometimes not so subtly, that to do this work. And so literally I support the greatest diversity you could imagine, from clinicians, but also a lot of people in corporate, a lot of people from other professions, a lot of artists and creatives are called to medicine, and then supporting other people in practice. So it's really diverse. The qualities I think that are foundational in becoming a guide is your own personal relationship with the medicine, to let that lead and guide you. Also know that your totality of your experience of your life is what makes you a guide. It's very, very unique in that way. So sometimes people have limited backgrounds in terms of academic training. But as soon as you're in this work supporting people, you're drawing from every experience of life that you have had in the support of other individuals and the collective. So it's very broad, it's very diverse. I think in terms of studies, I think having a background in energy practices, an understanding of energy, because at the end of the day, we're learning more and more every month and year now, scientifically proving that we all are energy. We're all entangled. And when you're working with mushrooms particularly, mushrooms are a very relational medicine. So having an awareness of energy, moving energy, any of the practices that work with the energy body are really supportive too.
That sounds great, and actually logical too. So thank you. And for someone listening who feels curious but unsure about microdosing, what's the first step they could take to explore microdosing?
Yes, I think there's so much education out there now. There wasn't a few years ago, but now it's really kind of exploding into the popular consciousness. I created an 80-minute free workshop that lives on my website that anybody can download to get free information, where I tried to answer a lot of the beginner questions that I get for people new to practice, but just meet people. I think the information you'll get on the internet is somewhat limited, right? It's not really vetted. You don't really know the source of it. So step into practice. There's communities springing up all over the world around practice. And so it can be really, really helpful and supportive and affirming to kind of meet other people who are in the practice, learn from them, just hang out, listen, get to know them, and see the broad array of what is possible before you actually step in.
Yeah, and I think that's such great advice, because speaking to people who understand it and hearing what they have to say about it is a great basis for our own learning, to help us to understand it too, rather than just reading something off the internet. If we can talk to people and be in a community, a supportive community, I think that plays a huge role.
Definitely. It's the way we used to heal. And I think we're just remembering that there was a lot to that. And we're kind of
Yes.
reimagining it for modern times.
Yes. And looking back in your own healing journey, what have you learned about your own resilience and the body's capacity to heal itself?
Lots. Oh my gosh, so much. I think what is with my biggest awakening, and I see a lot of people I support too, is, in this modern moment in our academic society, we're so taught that we have to work hard at our healing. There's always another training or another program or another modality and another thing. And sometimes when people step into natural medicine healing and energy work, it's almost deceptively too easy. Right? And we learn that it's not by doing. We don't heal by learning more. We don't heal by knowing things, right? We learn to heal. We grow through receiving and kind of setting ourselves up in the right situation, and then kind of letting our innate healing potential spring forth. And so the undoingness of lasting healing was a big one for me. And it's a big one for a lot of the people I work with, is really opening up to receive all that is there for us, all that our potential truly is.
And I know a lot of people can really struggle with that feminine energy of receiving, can't they? And I was one of those too, because I was always give, do, rather than receive and be. It can be so challenging to actually learn that. But once we learn that, it supports us in our healing.
100%. And it can happen so fast comparatively. A lot of people are wired, they work on things for years and years. I mean, I had seizures for years and years, and I didn't even think that it was possible for me to not have them, and to think that it was something so simple as microdosing mushrooms. Or, I've seen people have tremendous healing just in a single dream. And it's like, how is that possible that you can have this tremendous healing in a single dream? But it's possible when we shift into this different frequency. I always share with my clients, like the soul and the spirit move so much faster than the mind does. The mind is always like the last to catch up. And so we're so used to thinking like more and more out thinking ourselves, trying to figure things out. The more we can get into our soul body, it can happen so quickly. Healing can happen, manifestation can happen, all of the things. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. That was a huge lesson for myself, to learn to be and to receive rather than to do and hustle. So thank you. And if you could share one tip, Kasey, for somebody with seizures, seizure disorder, epilepsy, what you've been through, what would that be?
Yes. Oh, just that it's possible to heal. So much of what I have learned is really supporting the nervous system. I work with a lot of very highly sensitive people in mushroom practice, and they're sometimes worried that, I have seizures, or I get anxious very easily. I get overwhelmed very easily. Is this going to be too much for me? Right? I can't be more sensitive than I already am. And what's beautiful is that with mushroom practice, you get to keep your sensitivity, and your sensitivity becomes a gift rather than a liability. you can move around in the world differently. I used to have to, I tried to do all the meditation in the world and the yoga and control my environment and do all the things, but nothing else to do because I needed the internal shift first. But once you make that internal shift, you can kind of move all over the world and be in multiple circumstances, metabolize things very differently. So I would encourage anybody who has seizures or any kind of severe nervous system dysregulation just to know that this is possible for you, and it's not going to be something that comes from outside of yourself.
That's fabulous, because healing really does start on the inside, doesn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. And where can people find you, Kasey?
All over. I'm pretty easy to find. You can find me. I'm on all the socials at Kayse Garrett. And then our website is microdosingforhealing.com. We have a lot of resources and videos and things to check out on there for newbies. So you're more than welcome.
That's wonderful. And I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your healing with our listeners.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone who you think will benefit. And can you leave me a review wherever you've listened to it to help me reach more people? Thank you.